According to the mythology spoken by zebras, the high seas of northern Zebrica were firstly dominated by the ancient and mighty Zonicians. As their purple flags unfurled, their tales were told. While fleets crossed the ocean and reached the ancient Zebrica, Zonician colonists had also reached their promised land. Great cities like Hibon and Zur were founded, and early-stage systems had appeared in their civilization. The dual leaders of all Zonicians were granted the title of Sufrit and gave their vows to the gods of Pantheon. Zonician ships were protected by the Dog Targon, the ruler of seas. Lawbringer Zam gave them justice, and the warring Astarte gave them strength. As for the others, the god of storms, Zaul Zephon was powerful but blindless, for storms could save lives or take them. The skillful god Zothar was the builder of all cities and crafts, but for the Zonicians, they were created by the almighty Zal and Zanit, the father and mother of all zebras. As time went by, Zonicians had left Zur and Hibon to colonize more places around northern Zebrica, expanding their footsteps into the unknown. Many city-states were formed during this period, and the once united Zonicians were scattered and spread in all directions. From Zumedia in the west to Koltva in the east, the blood of Zonician was combined with the vast realm. However, the ancient Zonician civilization was totally changed in the year of 1742 BLB. The daughter of Sufrit, Queen Zidol, was banished by her father. To find another home, Zidol had led a group of refugees from Zur to build a new city on the hills next to the seashores, dubbed Kothaj, the Cold Hardest. The city of Kothaj was the queen of all harbors. Numerous merchants paid their visits. Wealth and civilization had filled every land of this place, but the Colthaginians always wanted more. They crossed the Middle Sea and sailed to the southern California, establishing colonies on Scarlet Island, naming them the New Kothaj. The Colthaginians had turned the Middle Sea into their backyard, defeating the rivals of Zur and becoming the hegemony of northern Zebrica, and one of the great empires of the ancient world. However, when their expansion was stopped by Carthenia, a war between the giants was unavoidable. In 552 BLB, the First Punic War had broken out. Tensions rose and seas were boiled, claws against hooves, yet no one could gain the upper hand. While the long-lasting Zonic wars were distracting Kothaj from Zebrica, their ancient rival, city-state of Zur, was saving their strength to revenge. Actually, they had started their plans long before the Zonic Wars. In the 7th century before lunar banishment, Zur had established a fourth city of Metsuda in the eastern trading area of Macavia and Hindia, cutting the lines made by Kothaj and weakening their forces. Without enough trades and recruits, the Zonic Wars had finally ended up in Kothaj's defeat in 490. The city of Kothaj was destroyed and sacked by the Carthenians. Its overseas colonies were taken away, and remnants of their fallen empire were annexed by Zur. After the fall of Kothaj, another Zonician state had risen from its ashes. Zur had begun its golden age in the later 600 years. But when the city of Metsuda declared its independence, the glory of Zur was no more. Zonicians in Metsuda had turned the city's name into Kizilzeb and expanded their forces to the whole area of Kultva. Before Zur could suppress the resistance in Kizilzeb, the disappeared Kothaj had also announced their independence in 15 BLB. Kothaj had completed its revenge against Zur and tried to re-establish their dominance once more, but they never reached the heights of their ancestors. Their old colonies were now controlled by Sycamion Griffons, and they couldn't fully assimilate Koltva, which is more influenced by Zur and Hindia. The Sufrits of Kothaj were so eager to revive their ancient heritage that they ignored another threat on the southern plains. In 525 ALB, the hordes of Quagatai invaded Kothaj under the lead of Khan Yakub. The horde had captured Hibon and Kodar, forcing Zonicians to pay them tributes as a puppet. Since after, Zonicians were suffering from the enslavement of Quagatai, yet hardships made them tenacious. In 825 ALB, 300 years after the fall of Hippon, a priest called Zonicia had led a revolt against the Khans of Quagatai. The furious Zonicians had traveled all over the northern Zebrica to join the rebellion, and it was the first time that all Zonicians united under one banner to achieve one same goal. Within a decade, the whole Zonician were liberated from the horde. As for Zonicia, he came out the idea to form a united Zonician nation. Unfortunately, the dream of unity was shattered as Tumidia and Vardzina refused to join. Thus, they could only establish a Colthaginian republic to maintain their influence in northern Zebrica. In the year of 975, Zamilcar Zarka had become the Sufrit of Kothaj. But he showed no respect to the constitution and turned the nation from a republic into an oligarchical dictatorship. He also hired an influential group of academics, which is called Scientific Clique, to help him run the nation. Zamilcar had led the Industrial Revolution in Kothaj by selling off nation properties. Except from that, he also established a treaty of friendship and mutual support with the heirs of their ancient rival, Wingbardi. But when it came to the new millennium, the storm god Zal Zephon had casted a calamity on them. After conquering all the rest nations in northern Zebrica, it was Kothaj to be the last one being invaded by the Storm King. Their forces were destroyed and wealth raided. Sufrit Zamilcar was dead, and the rest of Colthaginians had fled to the mountains. Kothaj was chained once more. But a few months later, the Storm King was defeated and his Yeti legions retreated. The Colthaginians were surprised to gain their freedom all of a sudden. The Senate gathered and elected Zalathil Zarka, the son of Zamilcar, to be the new Sufrit. Though Kothaj is free for now, it is still plagued by the internal unrest following the Storm King's invasion. Their industrialization is abruptly stopped. Different factions are fighting each other to gain more power. Constitutionalists and Kultvans are opposing the Sufrit's dictatorship. No Zonicia knows what would happen in the chaotic future, but the children of Zal and Zanit have pledged that this time Kothaj must not be destroyed.